Hi all, this is Demon Sword. Now, you're probably wondering what this video is going to be about. So, I'm going to be discussing sanding and polishing katanas, and this also will bring in some acid etching, so you can understand how to do that. So, let's begin with sanding, whetstones, and steel wool. With those products, you will be causing scratches on the blade. I know that sounds scary, so you will cause scratches with the more coarser ones, and as you progress up the stages here, these are wet sandpaper, you will get it more and more toward this, a nice clean polish. So basically your scratches overlay to the point that they become just clean, shiny metal. And as you go up in the grades of coarseness to the higher grades, it just ends up buffing out all those small scratches. So you take big scratches, turn them to little to almost non-existent. Steel wool, same thing. Steel wool has these coarse pads as well as fine pads. But they go from 0 to they go like 1, 2, 3, 0, 0, 0, and then 0, 0, 0, if I recall correctly. Now, once you're done with all that sanding, there are some other methods you can do. The other methods you can do after that is either you can do an acid etch or you can go straight to the polish method. Now, traditionally when you're doing katanas, you can use whetstones or whetstone, which is, there's W-E-T, there's W-H-E-T. W-H-E-T stones, which are like the more modern compressed bricks, you have to throw them in a bucket, such bucket of water, leave them in there for about 15 minutes to soak up the water, and then you can do the same thing as you would do with sandpaper. Sandpaper is just cheaper overall and easier to find and get at like local stores, Home Depots, Lowell's, whatever. So for acid etching, that's the next method. You can use what's called white vinegar or apple cider vinegar, or whichever works for you. You put it in a big bowl, you heat it up, and if you have a big plastic tube you can put the sword into that's watertight, you could fill it up with that while it's hot, because you want hot acid that causes the chemical reaction to speed up. Instead of just leaving this for like days, it only takes a few minutes, and it really brings out the metal differential. So if you do it right, the hamon here will turn a white silver, the edge will become a darker silver, and the spine will become a black. That's how you see, like say my Project Sword 1 was done. You can also get the same effect with different whetstones, and whetstones, W-T, are Japanese stones, and they can get up from grades of very high grit to insanely coarse grit, and those are natural stones that you have to do the same thing as sandpaper. You put it in water and you do it. So what they do is they'll have a brick here, you take some water, you put it there. I've shown how to do that with a whetstone before. For polishing, you can do the same kind of thing. Get a buffer wheel, get a whetstone. Modern methods also work, so there's what's called mother's polish. I find mother's polish to be very coarse. So what do I mean by coarse? When you put it on the blade, it'll make it look more like this. So you can see the hamon, it's a dark line, but both kind of end up silvery, but it's very good at taking away bigger scratches that the sandpaper couldn't get rid of. The other one, which I do like using for just cleanup polish and protecting the blade, is white diamond polish. So white diamond polish is really good at bringing about the hamon, the hada. The hada, if you don't understand what that is all the little grain structure, the swirls, all that fun stuff you see on swords. Traditional polish tends to turn this gray with like a darker spine, but these two kind of blur, and I don't like that. I like to see my hamon visibly, and I like to see the edge difference, and then I like to just see the grain structure up here. If you can notice that, it's really easy. It's one of the ways I use, like if I get a very foggy sword, I'll polish it like I'm doing here. This is actually the Black Sword Saint sword. I wanted to further polish it to try to bring it out. It still has, as you see, some minor buffing and whatnot problems going on here, scratches and such. So I'm just going to clean that up. and move on. Also, FYI, for the doing this, do it outside. You don't want to do this inside because the water, the vinegar, all that other fun stuff can damage your floorboards. If you have to do it inside, do it on like tile. But you can see I've got like towels everywhere. Towel on myself. I've got a towel here. I've got a towel I'm sitting on. I've also got a bunch of little hand towels so I can dry off and check at stages how the polish is going. So if you're wondering what I do, this is, again, I do this on with both hands. You just sit here with a coarse one and you just sit here and just do this. And this will bring out the meat of the sword. You want to try to keep the number of what you do here. So I've done, so as you can see, it's starting to make some nice scratches here. Don't be worried. That's fine. What I normally do is I hold it with this hand on my left hand, and then I've got the blade on my knee, which is covered, as you can see, by a towel. And then I can do that, and then I just take and I'll fold this between my hands, and I'll fold it like that to go along the spine, or I just use my thumb and I go across and do it really slowly. It's a very time-consuming process. So if you don't know what you're doing or you want to practice, I do not recommend trying this on a brand new, high-end, expensive sword. Again, $100, $175 sword. It's not great. But the price of this, I'm also going to do, I got a black habaki I'm going to put on this to just make it different compared to the other black sword saints, and do little work on my other sword, which is a 5160 spring steel katana. So I'll bring that one out at a different time. So for now, you can see the hamon, but you can also, like I said, see the scratches, and it's not really showing the difference of grain structure yet. So that's my hope. If anybody has questions and whatnot, I'm happy to answer. When you're doing acid etching, a trick I use is you get a paintbrush, some dish soap, and a bowl. You put the vinegar into the bowl, put a couple of drops of the soap. The reason you want to use the soap is to thicken up the vinegar, so when you put it on with a brush, it sticks on the blade. Again, as I said, I like just put this in a bowl. I microwave it for a few minutes until it's hot. You see some steam coming off of it. Once you see steam off of it, that's fairly good indication it's hot. You can also try a thermometer or whatnot. You then take a small square brush and just apply it on. Now you want to keep it wet. Why do I say this? If you do not keep it wet, which will keep the reaction going, it will cause the vinegar to dry onto the blade, which will A, turn the blade yellowish, B, start corroding, and C, leave a stain on the blade. And I don't want to do that. You don't want to do that, so I'm just giving you a heads up. The easiest method is to put the sword into a vat, or like put it in a box, heat up the box, heat up the vinegar, and just pour it in and let it sit in there. That makes everybody's life easier. I've actually got a rubber tube I'm gonna try to use for that. It's a clear plasticky rubber tube. Fill it up, it's watertight, and that works fine. So again, if you have any questions or you want me to demo it, let me know. Even sort out.